Hello, Internet. This is Competent Console once again. Haffisz and Adi here. New week, a new episode. Before I touch on the method that we want to talk about in this first episode today, I have a tweet here, and I want you to guess who wrote this tweet. Okay? It goes by like this. I go to Hooters. I eat rare steaks. I lift extremely heavy weights. I read the Bible every night. I am pursued by copious amounts of women. I am widely successful. I have the physique of a Greek god. I have an IQ over 180. I am extremely charismatic. In your educated guess, who is this author of this tweet?
Wow, what a individual. I am surmised to say that this is probably one of those alpha males that's been grifting around the manosphere these past few years, in the same vein as Andrew Tate. I assume that it is a particularly new ambassador to Malaysia, Mr. Nick Adams, is it correct?
That's correct. But he is not, as of now, not yet confirmed as a ambassador from Malaysia. It's just a nomination, thank God. But it could be the case in coming following weeks, yeah.
Okay, so what can we talk about this particular individual, Haffiz? We saw people protesting protest against this nomination. What does this tell us here? Because this guy, like you said, like you describe, very decorated personality, very larger than life character. Well, what's the issue here, Haffiz? Other than being a
the issue
blatant
here is
misogynist, obviously.
That's, I think, the core of the issue here, the personality of the possible ambassador of United States of America to Malaysia here. I mean, it couldn't be far cry from what Malaysia has collectively as a community, as the value of Malaysians here. First of all, he's a pro-Zionist. Most Malaysians are not. He's a misogynist. I don't think we are. We are very moderate in that sense as well. And what I read in his tweet, it's a perfect encapsulation of he is as a person, a persona that he carries here. So I hope that if he becomes eventually becomes the officially ambassador of the United States to Malaysia, I hope he will represent his country, not himself, most of the time, because that would jeopardize the relationships of Malaysia and the US, so, which we're going to talk about later on as well. But I think the more important thing here is that some people make it like the protesters, like on Friday, that they oppose this as he is what I mentioned aforementioned earlier. But also that people question that this is some sort of a political reward to close allies to the President Trump. I mean, makes no mistake, this is some sort of a tradition to each and every presidents in the past. Even Biden did so, and Malaysia in this time is not exclusively to us. Like, it's not Trump's way of offending us purposely, because in Singapore they got the ambassador who is Anjani Sinha. He is an orthopedic surgeon. When he was asked during the Senate hearing, when will Singapore chair ASEAN Summit, he couldn't answer that question. So he has no clue about a country that he's going to as an ambassador to US. That's the level of ambassador that's going to represent US in Singapore. So it seems to be the only requirement for you to be ambassador to Singapore is to be a golf buddy to Donald Trump, because yes, he is a very decorated orthopedic surgeon. But he is a surgeon after all. He is in no way a diplomat to begin with. So he may be a very, a very good doctor or whatnot, but in the realm of foreign policy, he may not be the best person, yet Trump put him there. And I think similarly with Nick Adams is that the timing couldn't be worse, where the Gaza is still going on with whatever Middle East that we're having, and Trump is not even bother sending American. He sent us the Aussie or a person who just became naturalized American citizen in 2021, and now here he is as an American citizen, American ambassador. That's my run for this. What do you take from this possible appointment of Nick Adams?
Well, where do I begin? It seems like this character, the way he's portrayed himself on his online persona, is someone that represents the absolute obnoxious side of stereotype of Americans. Very loud, boisterous. Someone that's not willing to take no for an answer. Someone that just barges into the room and takes charge and tries to throw an entire party. That seems to be the kind of character this guy is. Alpha male grifter, guy who definitely looks down on women, definitely sees them, objectifies them in that way. And at the same time, someone that I feel with that kind of personality is unable to fit in a lot with the cultural sensitivities that is in Malaysia here, right? We're a vastly different kind of people than what Americans are, or generally what the Anglosphere really is. We're more quiet. We're more polite, I would say. I think it's the word. I think the word is that we tend to be more mindful of other people, and we're not the type that just barges in and announces themselves uninvited, something like that. And it shows that this kind of personality and character is rewarded and valued by the Trump administration, because if you have a career diplomat, someone who is trained in the particular nuances of foreign service, you understand that the important part is when you're posted to a country is you have to understand the people that live in that country. What do they believe in? What are their personalities like? What kind of expectations that they have from a representative from the United States of America? Now, you mentioned that hopefully he can represent his country, but at this logic that he has been chosen to represent the country for that personality shows that the key is going to represent his country in a way that is very an extension of Donald Trump himself. Because we know that Donald Trump himself is also a very gung-ho cowboy-like character who doesn't take no for he just shoots by the hip, and that it seems to be rewarded for that kind of character. And like you said, the timing. This is not long after the Yang di-Pertuan Agong and Prime Minister Anwar received a letter from President Donald Trump regarding an increase on U.S. tariffs on Malaysian goods. Right, so it's a very timely theater where you have this boisterous declaration from probably the most powerful office bearer in the world, and then suddenly sending someone that does not give much confidence. It does not show enough confidence to the Malaysian people that this is someone that we will be referring to when it comes to American negotiations. And I don't blame when people come out to protest about it, because this is the character that is being sent to us. And Malaysia traditionally has always been neutral on global affairs, barring issues such as Palestine, Israel. We have always committed ourselves to neutrality. That is something that we have prided ourselves in since independence. We've used that to weather the Cold War. We've never taken sides. Of course, sometimes we do lean in towards one or the other side, depending on the current leadership. But overall, we never took on a particular strong stance, because we believe that through neutrality, we are able to bring everyone to the negotiating table. By having someone who is more gung-ho, a bit more of an ideologue, it might force Malaysia's hand to pick a side, put pressure and a very awkward situation for Malaysia to pick a side, or or it could be seen as to counterbalance China. But without any diplomatic tact, there is no way that we can convince the Prime Minister, Wisma Putra, to sway the other way here.
I mean, it's like there is no awareness in the Washington that it's already, the tariff is already trying to pull most country away from United States orbit. Now that sending people like Nick Adams to certain countries in Southeast Asia, especially where we are much closer and much have better ties with China, seems to push us even further from United States orbit, which could tip the balance in terms of geopolitics in this region, especially like the presence of United States, it's still there. Like when we talk about nine dash claim, like it's still America still assert themselves very well over there, especially with the request from the Philippines there. So it's certain countries also like Malaysia where we do have some disputes and some problems with the Americans. As I can still remember some of these headlines this year where we were so-called like warned by the Washington to not be like a warehouse for the Chinese goods and relabel them as made in Malaysia so that they could bypass the tariffs or whatnot. So we are under a lot of scrutiny here. Like the Pentagon clearly watching close eye on us, and this does not help. To have Nick Adams, who cannot read the nuance of Southeast Asia, he may be Australian, but he wouldn't know anything about remotely what is the nuance in Southeast Asia. So that's number one. And secondly, Nadi, I would like to echo what Rafizi Ramli said in his podcast last Friday regarding this Nick Adams appointment. He said Malaysia, even we seems to be force our hands into accepting. There's no way we could say no. Even this is the privilege of American president to do so. But what we could do is that we turn the table around by using, because he seems to be a great buddy to Donald Trump, right? So why don't we use him as a leverage to influence Donald Trump even more in reducing the tariff and whatnot? So we use Nick Adams, play on their good side and whatever, stroke their ego, inflate as much as ego that we can, do the needful to play that kind of game, and then we might be see that percentage of tariff going down a little bit, rather than presenting facts and figures to Washington and come up with just an increment of 1% tariff instead of reducing it. So we all know we cannot reason with President Trump here, so we might be successful on approaching the different side of him. Because the tactics here seems that if Donald Trump's like you or someone that was sent to represent the country, then that kind of negotiation seems to be successful. So if that's a strategy that we want to go with, I think we should go ahead and then use Nick Adams to our advantage instead of just mourning about it, because there's nothing much. Yes, we can say our disagreement over it, but I think that's pretty much that we could do about it. Yeah, don't you think?
Definitely. But I think I'm sure some people in the Prime Minister's office and Wisma Putra have already came up with a strategy like that to contain Nick Adams and to see how they can redirect his relationship with Donald Trump and his personality to be favorable. I'm sure there is something in the works there, and I don't think this is something that is going to be taken lying down. But of course, the Prime Minister and Tokmat did say that it's still too premature to make any kind of assumption. So who knows? Maybe they're negotiating for someone else at the same time. But that one time will tell over what is going to develop in this regard. But nevertheless, I've met people from the American embassy before when I've been to my travels in KL. Sometimes I have meetings there and conferences to attend, and so sometimes they're in the room as well. And some of them are very pleasant people, very educated people, very trained individuals who do know the language of diplomacy, who do show a passionate care for Malaysia and its people, who try to understand what Malaysians really are like, how diverse we are, what kind of viewpoints and principles that we uphold. And hopefully with that kind of staffing in the embassy, and also through, sure they hire locals as well, that they are able to also educate Mr. Nick Adams on if he comes to Malaysia as ambassador, to tell him that no, this, you cannot do things in this particular way. You have to be quite sensitive to the issues that are at hand here, because well, we've seen already that the fact that there's a protest for him should already be signals for him, or should be a warning to him that, okay, you are here to represent America, you are here to uphold the best image that you can for your country. So please conduct yourself with some measure of grace, dignity, and tactfulness, diplomacy, essentially. Be diplomatic. No need to be an ideologue. No need to be a partisan. And there would be no need to try and be so caught up in this whole culture war rhetoric here, because as a Hutus aficionado and so-called defender of the West, with, I'm sure he has some kind of stake in that kind of game with the whole culture war nonsense that Donald Trump in the left and the right wing sides of the political divide are trying to compete with one another in, and we don't really want to have that kind of influence here. We're already quite, I would say Malaysia is quite, have its own fault lines in terms of unity, political unity, social unity, and we don't need another wrinkle in that to be exacerbated here. We don't want to have that need to talk about, be participants in a social conflict that Americans have been so embroiled in. Maybe we still have a lot of things to solve before we move to that stage. I hope we don't ever get to that stage. So this kind of rhetoric, this kind of politics shouldn't be brought here, and with that kind of personality, it shouldn't be encouraged. And I hope that whoever is in the American embassy, Wisma Putra, the Prime Minister's office, the Prime Minister himself, are able to also rein Nick Adams in to show that no, please don't bring your Hooters addiction or whatever here into this country. Please understand that you are a guest, an honored guest in Malaysia, and you'll be afforded the due respect and the due dignity afforded for your station, as long as you understand and respect our sensibilities.
Yeah, that seems to be the message that I think Ms. Putra wants to get across to to the Washingtons, and then hopefully this is gonna come more moderate instead of more heated, as like I mentioned, like the timing couldn't be worse for this, in the midst of tariff and Middle East conflict. So I think it's pretty much. I think that we can talk about Nick Adams here. As of now, Tokmat has confirmed in the parliament that there is no official request from the White House yet regarding Nick Adams, but we will watch this space very closely in the coming days and weeks ahead. Adi, any last word, or we can just move on to next episode?
Well, I'm curious to see what Parliament has to say. And, well, what do you know? Parliament finally is in session this week. So let's take a look at what our national parliamentarians are discussing this time around on the next episode. We'll catch you all there.
All right. See you in the next episode.